Okay. It's 10:05. We'll call the Sawyer County Administration Committee meeting to order. Madam Clerk, may we have roll call?
Sure. Tweet Schuman,
Here.
Ron Buckholz, Tom Duffy, Ron Kinsley, Dale Schleter.
Okay, and let the record indicate that Mr. Buckholz did call me and he's out ill this morning. And Mr. Duffy is here. He'll just be a little tardy answering call. Please rise to the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, Madam Clerk, certification of compliance with open meetings law, please.
This meeting has been noticed to the public and news media as required by section 19.84 of the Wisconsin statutes.
Thank you. Meeting agenda has been presented. Mr. Duffy is here, Madam Clerk. Okay, we'll move on then to public comment. I do have one request for public comment. Ms. Zelmer, please state your name and address.
902 South Lane, Virtue, Wisconsin, Edgewater property owner. 3 items this morning. One I haven't planned on. One was from the discussion in the previous committee meeting about changing employee travel policy and reimbursement. And I think that is probably a matter that should come to this committee for more discussion. Being around for as many years as I've been, I've heard a lot of discussion why the existing policy the way it is with trying to discourage employees from using their personal vehicles for travel and using fleet vehicles. I think that and some folks with a bit longer institutional knowledge can correct me, but I think there was an issue with employees. When do they start charging for mileage in their travel for their personal vehicle versus a fleet vehicle? The condition of their personal vehicle for use when there is carpooling. I think there were maybe insurance or risk issues. So I do think that is deserves more of a discussion than just simply changing some words that now don't put a stricter requirement on fleet use, but looking at all the other factors, because it seemed to me that it was well thought out at the time and it went through a lot of discussion. Another item that I wanted to talk about in general is with regard to how the county is adopting ordinances. I have brought it to the attention of previous administrator and I believe the current administrator that in the past the county had not been properly noticing adoption of ordinances, and that was supposed to be taken care of with the code of ordinances, and I still don't think it's being done. One request of you, Mr. Chairman, is a request to put something on county board to revisit the April 18th adoption of the ATV UTV ordinance. I think last night it was brought up, there are some amendments that the new commissioner would like to change, and I don't think it was fully thought through. And I would also like to put a stay for an agenda item, put a stay on opening County Highway F until the ordinance issues are resolved for ATV routes. And I had sent an email to Mr. Alvarado this morning that shows a public notice from Washburn County zoning regarding a text amendment and the public hearing to hear the public comment on the text amendment. And what it is was brought to Washburn County. They have a significant text amendment to the zoning ordinance coming forward. It was not properly noticed to the public. And so they have an in-house corporation counsel that took a look at statutes and they published a full page in the Spooner Advocate of the zoning ordinance text amendment. They put it in the paper timely. They put it in complete. It complies with state statutes. And I don't think Sawyer County's been doing that. So the reason I raise it today is there are 2 instances. One is I don't feel the ATV UTV ordinance was properly published. And I know that's separate from zoning, but there are specific statutory requirements for zoning ordinance text amendments. So I'd appreciate if you look into that.
Wrap it up.
Thank you. I'm done.
Yeah, all right. Appreciate that.
So that is what Washburn County published in the Spooner Advocate. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else for public comment? Mike, anybody online?
No.
Okay. Moving on then to number 7. Consider approval of our meeting minutes from April 13th, 2023. Any questions, deletions, edits, Mr. Duffy?
I move we approve that.
Okay, motion by Mr. Duffy to approve our meeting minutes as presented, second by Mr. Kinsley. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Number 8. Veteran Service Department report. I don't see Gary here, but he did send us a written report.
And
Hi.
Oh, geez, sorry.
No, that's okay.
Can you introduce yourself,
Sure.
ma'am, please?
So I'm Nicole Papero. Thank you for having me. I just started working with Sawyer County a couple months ago, and I work part-time with Gary and then part-time with the ALTC unit in our new building. So Gary sent me over, attached, you should have our budget, and then just an office report of what we've been working on. Last month, in the month of April, we had 435 phone calls, 317 letters, emails, and faxes, and 129 office visits. The Veteran Service Office submitted 55 disability pension claims to date and received retroactive payment of $79,916.42 for claims decided in the veterans' favor. I'm pretty new, still learning, up to date with my training, and Gary just scheduled me for my Wisconsin accreditation training. So the end of the month, I'll be doing that. And once I'm through that, hopefully getting through my federal training too.
Okay. Wonderful, good report.
Thank you.
And you know now that Lacuta has hired their new tribal veteran service?
And we did meet him. He stopped by the office. He's
Good.
very nice, and Gary has extended himself for any resources we
Good,
can
yeah.
offer.
And he was thought very highly of you and Gary.
Oh, good,
So we like to hear that.
good. Well, thank you.
Glad you're working together.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity, and I'm happy to be
Sure.
here, and hopefully I'll see you again soon.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So what is the plan then for Memorial Day?
Memorial Day, so Gary and I just touched base yesterday. He's a little bit more appraised on that than I am, but he did work with, or he's contacted the American Legion, and we're just waiting on some direction from them of what they would like us to partner with him. I think with me being new on his plate, we're gonna kind of try to work with them to see where we can help them the best. And then we have been distributing flags already to community members to put out along gravesides.
Wonderful. Anything else for this nice young lady? I didn't know who she was. Great.
That's okay. I'm sorry I snuck in your other meeting.
Yep, that's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
We'll tell Gary how well you did.
Oh, thanks.
All right, number 9. Information technology, Mike.
Morning, I didn't submit a written report, but we've been keeping busy with all sorts of things. Topic you're probably most interested in is our new boardroom. We've almost got it ready. After we did some testing, we discovered we needed a couple more microphones, one especially for the public, and then one additional one for the clerk. So we just got to get those mics hooked up, and I think so. We'll plan on being ready for county board next week. That's our goal. So.
And Lynn, we'll have signage for people that come into the courthouse and how to find us back there.
She's got
Have you
it.
thought about that?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I don't know what your plans are for that.
There's a bunch.
There's big
Rose
signs.
says there are
For
signs.
court, there's for courtroom is
No,
boardroom.
this is boardroom.
Oh, okay.
Any other
Mike, are you
questions?
responsible for any of these overages here?
Probably.
Anything else from Mike, guys?
He does a nice job. I'm glad we have him.
I would say Mike had to get in the middle of it a little bit and kind of referee between some of the delays with our AV company, and he was really kind of coordinating with them, but getting between them and the construction managers, and so bit of an issue for a little bit period of time, but
It was fun.
cleaning up after each other and just nuisance stuff. But yeah, he's been involved heavily.
Mike, have you put any thought into these iPads that somebody had requested a time before?
Yes, our newest board member, what's her name?
Kay Wilson.
Kay, I gave her a laptop. I think she likes that a lot better. So I need to get them and configure them for you. So I think we're gonna go with normal Windows laptops.
Okay.
For you guys.
Good.
Cause the iPads are just getting really too hard to administer. They're locking them down and it's a little frustrating for everybody.
All right, great. Yeah, and thank you, Mike, for all you do. Appreciate it. All right, number 10, Human Resources Report,
Good morning.
Ms. Rose.
Have my report. We're making headway, interviewing and hiring people. So that's always encouraging. I guess the only thing to add on here is I do have an offer out for one of the caseworker positions in our CPS unit. So we had a new caseworker start on Monday in the CPS unit. She's doing very well. That's it, unless you have questions.
Yesterday at CJCC, they said we're still housing 14 females out of county, but we don't have staff in the jail.
Now we're hiring staff in the jail, but we gotta get them trained,
So we're a month away maybe from,
something like that.
okay. Anyone else for Rose? Looks like she's ready to go here, so. Do you get involved with the, like, Mr. Schluter's Health and Human Services, the positions there now?
Mhm.
Since we hired within and now that opened up
Oh,
to
yeah.
public health
She puts up with me.
and CPS,
Mhm,
correct?
all of that, yep,
All right, thank you, Rose.
great, thank you.
Yep. County Clerk, Department Report, Madam Clerk.
Not much. You can see the numbers on the top. The front counter activity is starting to pick up with spring with marriage licenses and of course work permits. And then the April 2023 election is officially closed out. So we have 3 people currently scheduled as supervisors heading to the September conference. That's Mr. Schuman, Buckholz, and Schluter at this time. And then Andy and I will be going as well. So that's what I have today.
Lynn, have you noticed anything with the construction where people had trouble moving around or finding services or?
Originally they had trouble finding how to get to the jail,
Okay,
but that's calmed down now too.
gotcha.
I think we still have a lot of people come up to our counter thinking we are the clerk of courts and we have to send them down the hall.
Sure.
Not a great feeling.
Okay, anything else for our county clerk?
Thank you for all you do, Lynn.
All right. Second courtroom update, I bet that's Mr. Alvarado.
Yeah, I'm not gonna spend too much time on it. That's pretty much everybody was here.
Yeah,
So do I need to talk about it at all? You want me to, it's the same feel I gave the last meeting.
We're good, I think.
The only thing I should have said, last meeting that I did is I'm trying to give you the worst case scenario, what I think it is.
right.
So I didn't wanna give you the fluffy version, then have to come back another couple months and give you an even worse situation, so. I mean, I don't think we'll need all of that contingency request. Obviously, we can't stop the project, trying to get on the table, like Mr. Kinsley said, and get it to the board. So everybody knows where we're at.
Yeah, and I think you need to strategically present that at the board meeting to roll that resolution with all these things that are included in it. Versus separate items, you know what I mean?
Okay. As far as,
Well, I want to,
Well, you know what, our finance director was telling us earlier. About all those components of that
of
resolution,
the borrowing, sure,
yes.
Yeah.
Yep,
you want them in there,
I do.
yes.
okay.
And then I don't know, have we had legal look at the CMAR portion of Myron? And Venture? I mean, are we authorized or are they at all responsible for any of these?
I don't think so. I mean, I can have legal look at it, but what not venture. I mean, we have a whole nother set of issues to talk to venture.
Okay,
But the construction manager at risk portion is what they came to us with is they highlighted the things beyond the scope of the project that we agreed to add in. That's where we come up with the $100,000 amount. It's actually a little higher, but there's at least $80,000 of things that were not in the scope that was bid that they came to us with, but we agreed to add it in. So we can't hold them responsible for things that were not part of original scope.
You know what he means by that?
Excellent. Yeah. In our 23 budget, Andy includes all the staff to occupy those 2 courtrooms,
No,
correct? Huh?
the only staff we added was a halftime maintenance. Housekeeping position. It does not include
The state
any,
pays the rest of it?
no, well, we didn't hire any additional staff. We have not been asked to add any additional staff. So we didn't include any additional staff.
Rose?
Yes,
No?
no, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that there's not gonna be.
It's up to the
There could be a
department heads to come forward and.
Yeah, no, I talked to I don't know if Rose did, but we talked about it during the budget process. I talked to the judge, he did not request any additional staff. We don't anticipate any. The clerk of court's office did not anticipate or request any additional staff because they don't anticipate needing them. I think what you're asking about is we don't know when the second judge starts. How the judicial assistant piece will be handled.
Right.
And
That's one of them.
that's really, and then there's been some overtures about court security because
Yeah.
they're gonna be stretched,
I was gonna ask that.
but that was not included.
One person still handle both courtrooms?
That's why we put them back to back.
Mhm.
I know.
So I'm not saying that you're not gonna get that request, but basically the judge said, I'm not doing anything until the other judge is here and they can. They can't, we couldn't make decisions for the new judge before they start. So, I mean, there's been, I think, before I got here and since I got here, there's been some. What are the possibilities? I mean, the hope we have is that we can cover it what we have, but. The new judge starts, she might be,
August 1st.
August 1st is her swearing in start date. She won't take case court hearings right away, but within a month, she'll probably start. What they do, what we've been told is that they'll start scheduling cases in her courtroom, the court number 2, starting the 14th. But she may not handle them until she's had a chance to get orientated and trained. They'll bring in substitute judges until she's ready to start taking on cases.
Which one's courtroom 1, which one 2?
Courtroom 1 is the one that's already built. Courtroom 2 is the one that's under remodeling. And it's not his courtroom and her courtroom. They could move back and forth depending on
I believe they should.
the trial, depending on the needs of what they're doing, they can move back and forth.
Anything else from Andy on the courtroom update?
No, the other thing I just want to, Tim and Mike and then actually the sheriff's staff, I mean, there's been a lot of just little things when you just if you move into a new house, you find little things you gotta take care of and everybody's been doing their part to being flexible and trying to come up with good solutions on how to get everything operating the way we want. It'll be different for you to meet in the new boardroom compared to what you were meeting in. You'll have some space and nice windows and the public has their own seating area and IT or a monitor to look at. So, and then right now, the other thing I should want to point out is we're going to ask the committees. There were tables in there for the one end of the room to be able to sit around and have meetings. We're putting those away and not using those because the AV is all set up to work around the horseshoe. So we're asking all the committees to meet around that horseshoe as well, just to keep things simple.
And Madam Clerk, how will we vote in the new meeting room? Do you want us to use like our clickers
I think
or what?
we'll
what do you
probably
guys
do
want?
it like we have been on a case by case basis. If there's something that's straightforward, voice vote would be fine, but
Okay.
the clickers will always be available for the full board.
Or set up
And then
that way in there?
Well, I have to still bring them each time because I can't leave it.
We should really get to that point eventually, I think.
Yeah.
How will I know to recognize someone? I mean, in the regular courtroom, remember they turn their light on? Is that gonna happen there or what?
It's the same microphones.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, exact same. So no difference.
okay. Thank you. County Administrator's report.
All right, run through kind of things and like you were asking Rose about, so she does most of the heavy lifting there, but we've kind of made it through, I think, some big retirements this year. With the Gary Gedard's retirement and think I've spent some time with John, the new commissioner. He's getting up to speed and jumping in, you know, literally almost jumping in the first weekend with the flooding. But he's had some issues come up already that he's dealt with. HHS update, so as you're all aware, Julia Lyons is now our Health and Human Services Director. With her taking that spot, she had to give up the Public Health Officer designation because she couldn't be dual designated. Within our current ranks, we have Julie McCallum, who was qualified to be the Public Health Officer. So we named her interim. The state has to approve that, approve her qualifications and experience. We're a level 2 public health office, and she's actually capable of her credentials would allow her to run a level 3, actually a higher line. So we named her interim. We posted the position internal. She was the only candidate. So the recommendation going to the county board is to name her as the permanent public health officer. Then we would backfill with a public health nurse in that department. I mean, there are places that struggle to find public health officers. We're fortunate that we've got multiple qualified people. Yeah. Julie McCallum has a nursing background of like 25 years, public health for 20. She has a master's in public health, worked in public health offices as well as educational facilities, teaching, working with nurses. So I think we're very fortunate there to have a good transition.
Yeah, and before you, Andy, and before Julia, Eileen Simek was one of the best.
Great.
We had her for years.
And then the other department head departure was Dan Ploger out of Land and Records. We weighed out our options there, and rather than replace with another department head to oversee everything, we're just going to I think we're going to put people in the roles they're good in. We already have Chris Gregory, who was our deputy county surveyor and has worked as a deputy in another county previously. He'll become the county surveyor. At least this is the recommendation to the board on the agenda for next week. Is to designate Chris Gregory as the county surveyor, Brian DeVries as our land information officer. Both of those are statutory, described in the statutes. You have to have a county surveyor and a land information officer. So we're elevating both of those in those positions. Dan Ploger held both of those titles as the department head. So we're not going to have one department head oversee the whole thing. We're going to elevate them. If they have any problems, they'll come to me. And then Kimberly Went is our lead real property lister and also a GIS technician, which will oversee that side of the operation, that third of it. And then if we need to bring in additional, most likely surveying assistance, we'll try to do that by contract at this time, just because we have a little knowledge of the surveyor market and it's going to be tough to recruit somebody in. So, but there are a lot of firms out there that we can contract with on a as needed basis for monumentation projects or specific needs we have. We'll also be able to, a lot of that surveying work is accommodated by state grant funds, and those tend to go up and down based on the amount of monies in the filing fees. So as our monies go up and down, we'll be able to adjust our surveying contracts up and down to adjust that. So it does leave a little bit one less body in the office, but we'll keep an eye on those individuals and help them out to continue to deliver services out of the department. And then beyond that, the other big thing, like Rosa mentioned, is our CPS unit. So where we're at with that, I mean, fortunately, we hired a new employee and they started on Monday because Carla Kay's last day is today. She's retiring. So if there hadn't been that 3 days of crossover, we would have had nobody in the CPS area. It is being covered. I mean, it's been a lot of work and a lot of juggling, but prior to Carla's retirement and the new person starting, we have a interim department head that's managing that division. She's a contracted employee for 20 hours a week, doing it remotely. I think I've mentioned some of this, but I'll just rehash it. So Susan Westfall, she's done this. She was a CPS director in the east side of the state. She now works for a nonprofit, but she's worked with Burnett County and Wapaka County in kind of this crisis mode to get departments rebuilt. We have LTEs that work for they work for Russ County and Washburn County. That are taking cases for us on an LTE basis on nights and weekends. And I guess we have one from the east side of the state that she travels up here on Friday, Saturdays to do some of our case management. We've brought in Lutheran Social Services for some of the ongoing work, family visitations or in-home visits. And we have a couple other counties helping us on like on-call hours. So if there's an issue in the middle of the night or on the weekends and the sheriff's department needs to make a phone call to get some advisement, those people from other counties have a rotation that they answer the phone and to help that way, if somebody needs to appear on site, then we call up our youth justice worker, Sarah Chelskis, who's been doing a great job of stretching herself to kind of address anything that's on the emergency basis here. Right, we got one started this week, accepted offer from another worker. There is a longer runway now for training through the state. They won't be able to take full caseloads for quite a few months. But we'll start them on Julia's goals, our goals, to have a little bit better onboarding and training process for those employees when they start. And hopefully it helps getting them over the long cover it, Rose? Yes.
You should update this committee and me on this new ad hoc committee they're proposing,
Okay,
because I saw a list. How does a list like that affect our budget? Do these people get paid stipends to come to these meetings? I mean. And that's a long list of names and what committee's jurisdiction for them? And we really need it.
okay. So this has been, as long as I've been here, it's kind of come up and down as an issue. It's regarding short-term rentals. Tourist rooming houses would be the zoning designation. Short-term rentals is another one. For the rest of the people in the marketplace, it's Airbnbs, it's VRBOs, it's vacation rentals. And so if you're not aware, I don't have the progression top of my head, but if you go back like, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, there was a couple under them. There was really an effort made to find these and get them through the licensing process in our health department. We are the local agent for the state, so we license all lodging properties. So now we're over 550 of these throughout the county. And put that into perspective, that each of those even have 2 bedrooms in them, and most of them have a lot more than that. That's like 10 hotels. Okay, that's how much capacity and things can come in. But when you have that kind of incremental growth, you start to have issues with neighbors not always liking it because they might not be following all the parking on other people's properties, there's noise, there's fireworks. These people are coming in to vacation. The other thing that's been noted is that what you and I might think is a 3-bedroom house, 2 bathrooms, is being advertised for 20 occupants. So they convert their basements into boarding rooms with bunk beds. And that becomes an issue from a health standpoint, that the septic systems, usually they're out in places where they're on private systems, are not built to handle that many users, that much water flowing through them. So that's one area we're taking a look at, but it's just, we know they're having an impact. We're hearing it from town boards, we're hearing it from neighbors. So the recommendation, and our staff has been bringing it up, that they're, and I think you're all aware that, I don't know the details, probably 5-6 years ago, you had a ad hoc committee look at these, and I know nothing, there was some recommendations for ordinances or additional regulations, and then that went by the wayside based on an attorney's opinion that it was out of the jurisdiction of the county and really something the state needed to handle. The state was looking at it at one point, and they really haven't stepped up and added any direction on how to manage these types of facilities. So staff brought this up. They talked to the Human Services Committee from the public health standpoint and the zoning committee about the issues they have there. The recommendation that an ad hoc committee should be reconvened or formed again to take a look at these issues. And specifically, the one thing they're coming at it from is the ability to address the health standards with the number of number of occupants of these properties while they're here. So both those committees recommended an ad hoc committee be formed based on our board policies. The chair has the ability to recommend an ad hoc committee to the board. So with staff, their recommendation and the committee's motions, that recommendation's gone to the chair to form the ad hoc committee along with a list of names to serve on that committee. They're trying to put together a list of stakeholders, I would call it. So there's like a septic hauler, a realtor, a property manager, citizens, owners, town board members and county board members. I think.
There's 11 or 12 names on that list.
And one of the things where they were gonna look at is the new licensing fees too, right?
Fees as well.
Potentially pay for some of the costs.
Yep. So that's, I think. Should that go, it'll go to the county, we have the resolution for the chair, to introduce at the county board meeting. Then the board can decide if they want to form the ad hoc committee. From a budget standpoint, we really haven't discussed that, but yes, well, I believe. I would need to look at the policies again, but I believe your ad hoc committees, everybody's paid if they're doing. I know the county board members are for sure. I don't know the other members of the committee if they get paid for being as well. Yeah, when you did your comprehensive plan committee, did everybody there get a per diem? No,
No, and ad hoc committees have not been paid in the past.
okay,
I know.
Mr. Kinsley.
Do they have like a realtor on there and stuff?
They do. There's 11 or 12 names.
I can look at that.
yeah, we can give you the
And then who do
list.
they report to then? Zoning or Health and Human Services or?
They'll take their, when recommendations come out of there, we'll go back to those committees and to the full board.
Okay,
They don't have the ability to make ordinance. They have the ability to recommend back to the committees what they feel they should do. Because there's land use issues, and there are health licensing issues.
right.
There's actually a third component, but and this is where I've had more discussions with my colleagues around the state, is the economics of tourist rooming houses and what they're doing to the housing stock and the market prices and the ability for people to move to the area and rent a place to live. We run into that, I think, like all employers do, where if we have somebody from a couple hours away that wants to take a job here, they got to weigh out how much it's going to cost them to live here or commute here based on the wage they're going to get. And we're hearing that in the community, that housing is becoming beyond the reach of what our wages are in the community.
They're gobbling, it's people that can afford them houses are gobbling them up. So there's nothing available for the,
Exactly, and the prices are higher than they would normally be in this marketplace because of that demand. So I don't know how, I've been made aware that there are
So,
people that form companies that are buying multiple of these properties and managing them.
so with that point, Mr. Kinsley, there's only 2 elected officials on that committee. Of 11 or 12,
3, I thought there was.
There's town board too, well.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
The two county.
but I mean, as far as representing our people. You could have decisions from a realtor and other people that have special agendas here.
Yeah, I would,
That's what
honestly,
concerns me.
everybody on there, except potentially elected, have some sort of bias. That's kind of the goal, is to balance that out. It's up to you.
but that's what you want, is you want people to bring different opinions to you. And then when they they're gonna take a recommendation to help them with services and public safety. I mean, that's
That's
for that
what I
committee.
wanted to be sure.
Yeah.
That
So you want
they do have a
that variety.
governing body.
You'll have a couple checks there, because they'll go back to the committees with the recommendations will go to the full board and the committees. And then from those committees, I would anticipate action. And then that would go to the county board.
All right, thanks, Andy.
And I have the list here. There's 3 county board members on.
We're going with
And
12,
then probably nice,
right?
Okay,
yeah.
Yeah, we're going with 12. All right,
all right,
did a tour with the highway department. I mentioned this last night at Public Works. John and Brad, told me to take a ride with them, so I did. So they were out looking at county roads, and just anecdotal, I think everybody's aware of this. I tried to highlight it last night. I mean, I really appreciated the thought they were putting into with the roads. They were looking at sticking with the schedule this year. We do have a schedule based on the rating of the road and getting them rehabbed, but it's getting harder and harder because the amount we budget for maintenance on roads is pretty static. But the cost per mile keeps going up, so you're doing less miles of road every year. So we have a project down on County W south of Winter this year. That was kind of up in the air because part of it also depends on where the blacktop plant is going to be sited. That project was put on the board because it was anticipated to have a blacktop plant down in Hawkins. That's not happening, but Monarch is going to put one up in the Thompson Pit on 27 south of Ojibwa. I think that they said it adds 9 miles round trip, so increase the cost, but it also wasn't certain that the plant was going to be in Hawkins next year either. So they decided to go ahead with that. I think it's a section of County E this year as well. They're going to do just like, I think 8.5 miles is the total. But we also looked at a couple of roads that really did not come out of the winter well. Where our old road base plus the chip seal or whatever's been laid over the top is starting to separate and fall apart. So it's frustrating because there's only so much we can do to increase that budget. But we have, I forget the numbers already. If we have 250 miles of county road and we're only doing 8 miles a year, we're not getting to them for 30 years before we really put any investment back into them. Which by that time, roads are starting to fail in a lot of cases. It's hard winters around here. So that might be a future budget priority is for us to look at ways to increase the number of miles we're able to take on. We do have a couple grant projects that Gary secured for us before he left, but even those, the timelines are design work next year will be budgeted and actual construction will be the following year.
Maybe we'll just slide share revenue.
Yeah, well, we have shared revenue. Hopefully we have carbon credit money at some point. That's not, to me, that's not a real thing until we see somebody actually getting a check. But, and I'll just touch on shared revenue at the last committee meeting. There's competing proposals out there for shared revenue. Both of them, one side had us at about 700,000 revenue divided though between the majority of it for public safety, law enforcement. The rest would be for general operations. The other one is less, and that one has even more strings at this time. So there does look like there'll be more shared revenue coming to the county, but at this point, it's not worth thinking about or getting all worked up about because it's got a lot of work, a lot of things to go through at the state level. We'll see. Tax deed land, the sale list. Janine's gone ahead and put that on Wisconsin surplus auction site. So we're trying that out. If that works well, the next full tax deed land sale will go on there as well. Union negotiations, we're still, we had a session here a couple weeks ago with the media. We're in mediation now. There's a appointed state mediator. We had a lengthy session a couple weeks ago, did not get it settled. We've done one proposal swap since then. We provided them a proposal. We did not get a full official response back yet, so we're waiting on that. We did get some feedback, but not official. LCO items. So we had 161 agreements taken care of. The ATV issue, that's been settled. And then the only thing I've left is the child support MOU, and I think we've reached a resolution on that. So that can go for approval next month. Working on a petition for the airport for funding at the Bureau of Aeronautics. That'll be a public hearing and come to the board in June. And then I wanted to share this today as part of what we budgeted and my budget, and actually a little bit in HR this year, is to increase our engagement with the employees, to give them a little bit more stake in what we do. So the new benefits consultant, that's part of their work. And I've had this kind of sitting off to the side, and I'm ready to bring it out now. But I wanted to make you aware of it in case you hear about it, because it's probably not, not a real traditional thing. Basically, we're going to let the employees offer up their suggestions on ways we can become more efficient or do better business at the county and put a financial incentive attached to it. So this is just the outline that acknowledges that, you know, as a board, you make decisions on policy, the administrators manage within that policy and operate their departments. But a lot of the time, the best ideas and the best knowledge of what we do comes from the people in the front of the line that are doing the work. So we're gonna give them a chance to take a stake in that and present proposals that would affect how we do business, but potentially or actually require that we set cost generating or more efficiency. So it's open to all non-supervisor employees. They have to work as a team, at least with one other person. It doesn't have to be within a department, it could be across departments. The idea is they have to be net neutral in terms of cost within 2 years after implementation. So the example here is if they propose using a new software program and it costs $2,000 to acquire, they should show how that would save us $2,000 within 2 years. We'll submit the ideas to the administration, then we'll have a review team, including county board members, to review those. And then pick winner or winners out of that for the incentive. So put some of the engagement money in the budget. That's where the money will come from the pay for this. That's one of the things I sensed when I started was that, you know, employees felt, I don't say neglected, but maybe their voices weren't heard. So this is just another way to let them be heard. I think
Okay.
that's all I got. Unless there's any questions, Rose, anything that we beat our heads against the wall initiative. Tell me about. The only thing I should mention, I let Tweed know, is I will be gone next week, so I'll be remoting in for the board meeting. So that should be a fun. explanation over the phone.
Remoting it. For your county administrators report, Andy, you can have a written or you?
I'll write up. the
Okay.
next step.
Yeah, that's always helpful. Okay, thank you. Wow. Lots of.
I hope you get a chance to get away and enjoy life a little bit. Don't spend it all on
Yeah.
harvesting cans.
Yeah, okay.
There's a funny story I'll tell you after the meeting.
Future agenda items. Does this committee want to look at those edits to our bylaws or the policy procedures? Mr. Kidley,
Yeah.
the ones proposed in finance? Is it time sensitive? We get this done?
Are you talking about the car?
Yeah, transportation, meals.
Okay, that'd be edit to the employee.
Yeah, that's it. Let's bring that here next month, okay? Unless it's real time sensitive, we do this,
I don't think so.
okay? Then maybe Dale has time too to put it on his health and human services.
So
You
that's
know,
not
the
going
impact
in.
of the company cars, company vehicles. Because they've always used to save us a lot of money. By people using them.
We have 8 fleet vehicles, and by fleet, that's the ones that kind of, you know, you sign out from multiple departments. That doesn't include, we have vehicles that are strictly forestry vehicles or forestry maintenance has their own vehicles, sheriff has their own vehicles. So when we say 8 fleet vehicles, those are just the ones that any department can use.
Yeah, they both were you.
I would tell you that the county here has done a really good job of keeping those
Rotating.
fresh. Yeah, rotating them out, having a good program there. That's one cost that, you know, we've talked about that Mike didn't even, is not including in his analysis is. Maintenance, Tim manages those vehicles and it's not, we're not allocating his time to the cost. There's just, we're just looking at the cost of the vehicle, the maintenance, the fuel. And then when he said that we're not covering the cost, that's just including those costs. As part of the issue is that we need to gradually downsize the fleet because we just have too many cars. So they're not getting as many miles on them to cover the costs.
Gotcha. Anything else, future agenda items? Mr. Schleter, you have anything? Andy, we always talked about tracking the second quarter run and is that gonna make us more efficient? things like that? Have you been thinking about that? How we track that
I haven't figured out how
for
to
our investment?
yeah, I haven't figured out how to isolate the costs. We'll be tracking all the expenses. We'll be able to track the amount, any additional staff time and cost to operate the building based on just a year over year comparison of expenses. The real. I mean, I've thought about it. I don't know how to come up with anything better.
No, I
It's
appreciate.
gonna be a aggregate of a few areas. I mean, it's your utilities and maintenance and housekeeping costs. It's gonna be direct staffing. It's almost like you have your direct costs and your indirects.
Yeah.
And then it's gonna be bringing in the sheriff's department, the jail component. I mean, we'll be able to determine based on what happens in the next year, direct costs, like, do we have to add staff to cover that? That'll be the
Right.
direct costs.
Right,
Indirect will be any difference in the jail operation and.
Yeah.
Because the one that's gonna make that difficult is what we're already seeing. Is that when you agreed to build the second courtroom, you were running at 100 occupants in the jail. I'm assuming you were full. And for
Yeah.
the last 8 months, we've been averaging at 70 inmates. And we know some reasons for that, or maybe some is the diversion. I don't know if there's a good explanation for why else we're running. All of a sudden at 70% occupancy rather than 100%.
Well, some of it could have to do with, we had to get this programming going. And I think that's what you alluded to. and Can't change the past, but the programming should have been put in place.
but we can track the future.
We can definitely track the future. The other thing you asked about yesterday that we've had, I didn't note this, we've had some conversations with Northwood Tech, just to start with. They're doing additional job training in some of the other county jails like Barron and Douglas. They're jumping in with more of a blueprint reading, something beyond just getting a GED or HSED. So that's one avenue. There's a construction essentials program that they started again. They just ran it at the Gordon Correctional Facility. And it's actually, I want to talk to somebody between, because it's the next stop for it is the Bad River. Is bringing it in.
Okay.
That's something we could bring in to provide more job training for our inmates. The other thing we're talking to them about, Northwood, separate from the jail, is you probably have noticed or realized that we're bringing in a lot of new managers into the county, or elevating people who went into management. So in order for us to be, I think it's good for us in the long term to build people up and train them rather than trying to recruit in. But we're gonna launch a management training program internal. I think with Northwood Tech, as long as they come through with what we think they're going to run our people through, it'll run us about $200, $250 a person.
Money well spent.
I think so too.
Okay. Correspondence reports, anything?
How about anything on the property owned by the state DNR land?
Nothing, I gotta get back to the top of my list. To put that in.
Okay, if nothing else, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Could we do the